Italian economic growth has declined sharply over the last 70 years, and at the same time, voter turnout in elections has also dropped. This seems a peculiar correlation. Why would fewer voters vote when national economic growth slows down? Is this parallel trend just a coincidence? In fact, Italy is not an exception. Pretty much the same has happened in all advanced Western democracies. Growth has slowed all over the Western democracies. In the immediate aftermath of World War II, a reconstruction boom fueled GDP growth, but the reconstruction phase ran out by the mid-1960s. Then a deeper, more long-lasting slowdown began that was related to a slowdown in productivity growth. In other words, the efficiency with which we use our resources began to grow at an ever slower pace. This seems a surprise to many people. At a time when computers, artificial intelligence, advances in life sciences are so prevalent, why would there not be a new growth momentum? Robert Gordon, the Northwestern University economist, reminds us that the century between 1870 and 1970 was a very special one. In 1870, no home, not a single home, had a phone, electricity, piped gas, water connection, or sewer connection. By 1970, virtually every home was or was about to be networked into these services. Over the same century, roads, railways, and airways connected more and more people. Anesthetics, antibiotics, X-rays expanded the span of life vastly. These were monumental achievements, but they had a natural limit. The rollout of extensive networks from zero beginnings, the quantum advance in the span and quality of life, could only happen once. The triumph, as Bob Gordon says, was unrepeatable. Progress that has come since then has necessarily, therefore, been more modest and incremental. With slower growth, voter turnout has declined everywhere. It is as if many voters have become convinced that their votes do not count anymore. To be sure, it is the case that in the United Kingdom and Germany, turnout rates have increased somewhat, but turnout rates are still considerably lower than at their peaks. This reflects a latent frustration with the political system. That frustration sometimes boils over. Recently, we find that that boiling over has led to votes for extreme left and more frequently extreme right parties. The result? A political fragmentation. The fractured political landscape creates political gridlock. Because of the gridlock, it becomes hard to solve societal problems, hard to regenerate a new momentum for growth. Therefore, divisions persist, and therefore, it becomes harder to solve more problems, and the gridlock continues. This is a trap. Is there a way out of this trap? I believe that the central task must be to raise opportunities for upward economic mobility. The evidence is very clear that struggling parents worry that their children may have an even bleaker life. Parents are more hopeful when they believe that their children have an opportunity to climb the economic ladder. It is when that opportunity fades that a fear sets in, and that fear grows into a political alienation. That fear and alienation are particularly acute when inequality is rising, as is the case in most countries. Put together, the evidence strongly suggests that the combination of slower growth and greater inequality has led to reduced, dimmed prospects for upward mobility. For the United States, Stanford economist Raj Chetty and his colleagues show this depressing picture. Virtually all the children born in the 1940s grew up to earn more than their parents did. Less than half the children born in the mid-1980s could exceed their parents' income. Children born since then do not yet have an earnings record. But as the sociologist Robert Putnam emphasizes, all indicators suggest that prospects for many have become even worse. Those who have completed high school degrees or less have a particularly blighted future. They tend to live in rundown neighborhoods and in unstable families. Often, as Putnam vividly portrays, neighborhoods of bright and dismal future are in close proximity, even across the railway tracks within the same city. For Europe, we have fewer sociological and statistical studies, but the evidence has exactly the same echoes. My student Benjamin Ellis finds that prospects for upward mobility have declined even in Germany, the most successful of European countries. Parents who are on the upper rungs of the economic ladder are able to provide their children with better education, which gives them a firmer grasp to climb that ladder. Children born to parents on the lower rungs of the ladder receive a poorer education, which holds them back. In Italy, the lagging South provides fewer opportunities than the richer North, but such has been the spectacular decline in Italian growth rates that children even in the North struggle. For example, in Ivrea, once the fabled home of Olivetti, once referred to as Italy's Silicon Valley, a number of children now live with their pension-earning parents and compete for low-paying service sector jobs in such facilities as call centers. France, as the geographer Christophe Guy has pointed out, has fractured into regions of despair and privilege. The despair is particularly acute and chronic in the old industrial areas, which have lost steady, well-paying jobs. The recent Gilets jaunes or Yellow Vest revolt across France reflects an anger, not those of who are on the bottom rung, but those who can aspire only to precarious jobs, which barely ensure survival. In the UK, another student of mine finds that the differences within London are stark. For example, in Hackney, where pockets of deep distrust and poverty still continue to prevail, the anger was manifest in a low turnout in the Brexit referendum. In the affluent Kingston upon Thames, the turnout was much higher. Beyond London, the Rust Belt areas of West Midlands and the Northeast have provided fewer decent job opportunities within easy commuting distance. Such desolate areas voted for Brexit. The stories repeat endlessly, but they have the same theme. Low growth, low mobility, and political anger feed on each other and continue to do so. To break this desperate loop, I believe the key solution has to lie in education. As Shakespeare put it, or Shakespeare may have put it, education is thrice blessed. Education has been essential for economic growth since the start of the Industrial Revolution. Education offers, for most individuals, the only real prospect of upward mobility. Education typically makes more informed political participation. Therefore, the question is, where do we go from here? As I say, only education simultaneously can raise economic growth, increase upward mobility, and create a more informed and politically active public. Widespread and high-quality education is essential, must receive the highest priority to break this destructive loop from low-growth, pessimistic expectations to political anger. Yet what do we see? We see that the share of educational expenditures in national budgets have either remained flat or have in fact declined. Particularly troubling are France and Italy, which have experienced the sharpest declines in growth rates and yet give low or even declining priority to education. It's possible that a new breakthrough in technology will create widespread prosperity. But make no mistake, the greater likelihood is that spells of growth will be short-lived and will fade quickly. Meanwhile, investors, frustrated that they are not able to gain high returns from productive investment, will seek to inflate financial bubbles. Financial crises could become more frequent. Therefore, I conclude that an extensive investment in education and complementary infrastructure must get our highest priority. This effort must occur neighborhood by neighborhood, community by community. The effort will be long and demanding. Again, as the Red Queen said in Alice in Wonderland, you have to run as fast as you can to stay in the same place. If you want to get someplace else, you must run twice as fast as that. Many people will require multiple generations to grow out of their lower rungs into a firm grasp on the economic ladder. The standards of education required for well-paying jobs will continue to rise. But the prize will be great: a well-educated society that is fairer and more hopeful. Absent such an effort, hopes will dwindle, social anxiety and political alienation could become dystopian. Our children and theirs will pay the price.